I'm using Dixie Belle paint right now. I've got 3 colors that I'm using. And the first one is actually Flea Market Decor Patina color. And I thought I'd give that a try. And then I also have the Gulf, which is a light teal. And then also Cobalt Blue, which is a nice bright darker medium blue. It's not a dark blue, but it's a nice medium blue. And that really is what I used to create this look. So some of the things that I did was paint the base color, the patina color, and then I'll come back in with the blue, and then I'll dry brush the details, 2 different layers of dry brush, and then this is a little bit of blending. So those are the main things that I did to accomplish that. And so that really, the other thing I have is a mister just to keep the paint wet. And I'll use that especially when I do the blending. I'm only really doing blending on flat surfaces. I think that'll really make the hardware pop and give it a little bit of a glow. You can probably see that on camera. As far as brushes go, I have 4 brushes I'm going to use because again there's a lot of color, a lot of steps. I have a Paint Pixie brush that I'll be using for the blending. Not super needed on this step, but I find it comforting and helpful to kind of finish out the blending process. I have a Klingon brush that I'll be using to apply. I like to use this one just to kind of do the dragging and the dry brushing. The one that's doing the bulk of the work is my oval small Dixie Belle brush. This one's a really nice brush. I use it a lot along with my Klingon brush. And then I honestly have this really old Purdy brush that has seen its day. But one of the things I like about it is the bristles. It's got so much paint in it from years of painting that now it's nice and stiff. And I'll use this one just to kind of push the colors in there. Really, whatever brushes you want to use, you might just do a sample to see which one's working best. And just have at it. I mean, if you saw these up close, you'll see, maybe I can do that for you. You'll see that there's a lot of depth and texture to it. So I don't know that you could really have a long brush per se. As long as you can get in those grooves, you should be good. And then go at it. If all else fails, repaint. But that's not my goal tonight. I do want this drawer front to match styles with this. It doesn't have all the details, but it has a lot of raised surfaces, so I'm going to use those raised surfaces to highlight and do some dry brushing. This is one of those steps where you kind of have to do a few pieces over time to see. If you're worried about how it's going to look coming together, then it might be better to put the drawers all back in the dresser, put the door back on, and paint them all while they're on the dresser. But I'm just going to trust my gut that this is all work out. I'm using the same techniques and steps on all of it. So for the most part, it should tie together, but if not, I'll put it back before I put top coat on and just take one big look at it. So that should be a lot of fun to see it all kind of come together. When I'm done, I'll post pictures on this live so you can see the finished result. Feel free as you pop in to ask questions, say hey, let me know where you're at when you're watching. And I'm just going to jump on into this. The first thing I need to do, I've already shaken all my paints up. Wanted to make sure that they're all mixed really nice. The sides, I'm not really doing anything special with the sides. I've done one coat and all this already, so I'm following the same steps I did on the drawers, and that is just go ahead and get the sides their second coat. Just touch them up. The first coat did a good job, but this still has a little bit of streaks on it. This, I'm not planning on using the sides in the technique, so I really want to get that done and move ahead. So just really fast, cover that. I don't really paint, not really painting the bottoms. You'll never see that for the most part. In fact, the manufacturer did not even paint it, so I'm not going to paint it either, and it'll keep it from dragging. when the door closes and opens. You don't want a bunch of extra paint. And when I say bottom, the very bottom where there's raw wood, I'm not painting that. So I don't need really any paint across the top because the technique I'm using, I'm actually going to be putting that second coat on there. So we'll set my brush to the side. You'll be moving fairly quickly on this. There's not a lot of need to clean brushes and all that in between. The first thing I want to do, and I'll tell you that some of the techniques I used, I could have painted the drawer fronts blue and then come back. But sometimes you just don't know what technique you're going to use when you're painting it. And I think it's come out just as well because I like the multi-layered colors of having teal and blue in there. So the next step right now is blue. And I'm going to go ahead and grab my brush. And I'm not worried about this brush being wet. I want this to feel somewhat dry brush, so yes, I am using wet paint, but anywhere that I'm not painting in a groove, I'm not trying to really coat this. I want it to feel not worn, I guess is a good word. And like if you've seen some of my other pieces, and you can look that up on my website, bowtietuesday.net, if you want to see more of a gallery of my work. If you haven't scrolled maybe through social media. I've done a decent amount of glazing. This is almost that effect where if I had painted this first and come back glazing, but I want it to be rough, maybe somewhat boho style, but I'm not doing any kind of drippy or anything. But I want this blue to be in the crevices and the grooves of the design. So I really am just pushing this paint in there. Not a lot of paint. I want it to kind of give me the ability to still kind of drag and dry brush. Hey Kimberly. Thanks for joining me tonight. And Tony. Since I am using somewhat of a dry brush technique, it's quite a right that I let this color dry a little bit. I'm not doing a lot of redipping of paint, just enough to kind of keep the technique going. In fact, I want the larger spaces to dry a little bit because I don't want to pick up a lot of this blue color when I go back and do blending. Glad I didn't lose you guys. So again, right now, all I'm doing right now is treating this a little bit like a glaze where I just want to get paint in the grooves. I'll come back in just a moment after I'm done with this color, and I will re-dry brush the same green or patina color over this blue to create that worn look. There'll be times where you can't see what I'm doing, but really, I think the key here is be comfortable with making a mess, because that's what it is.
Oh, you dressed so formal for future.
Yes, you like that. I brought out my tuxedo today. I had to represent that bow tie. I'm going to turn this around so I can get the work in front of me. So if you feel like that you can't do a certain technique because it's too refined, this is the one for you because there's not much refinement to it. You'll probably enjoy making a mess. I think the key here is getting the right color combination. And besides one, having the color, just make sure that you like it, or that you know that your target audience, if you will, if you're selling it, would like it as well. Being here in Florida, coastal colors work well. All right, so the piece is painted in blue and it's ready for the next step. The next step is to take my patina color and I want to just drag it. I don't want to do too much beyond that. Some of the blue color is still wet, but it's okay. And one of the things you want to be careful with, I don't want to paint down. I don't want to get into the grooves. I only want the top. So if you turn your brush sideways, you can get that dragging effect. I'm not trying to erase. It's almost like over the years the piece had been painted multiple times and some of those layers have worn out. So I'm dragging so my brush doesn't get into the grooves. This is going to be the focal point of the dresser. There'll be a lot going on, but you need to make sure that this one really sings loud and clear, that it's the highlight. So you just need to look at your details and decide where to drag, where not to drag. So I'm turning my brush in all kinds of directions. Careful not to, I want some of the blues on the rims and the tops, and yes. Now you can see some paint got on here, but I'll fix that in a little bit. This is really the fun part of painting, is that one, you're almost working on a piece of art. There's a little bit of, dare I say, danger, like the danger of messing it up maybe, but that's exciting. So I'm just kind of looking over for anywhere else I need to drag the paint. If I felt like, if you're doing these colors and you felt like it's too bright, and I've done it before, you can come back with maybe a dark glaze, like a Van Dyke glaze, and you could tone this piece down by doing yet another glaze, but I want this to really feel more, have a little bit more pop and contrast to it. So I don't want to put another glaze over this and tone it down. I just really want this thing to look like it got pulled from the ocean and it's ready for maybe a coastal home or just someone who really likes a lot of color. This piece is going to do that. It does take, of course, longer to do this kind of technique, but I think the reward will be how amazing it looks when I'm done. Now, of course, if you find that there's just something not working out, it may be that you need to go back over it with something else, like if you felt like it was too bold. Okay, so step 2 is done, and that is to go back over the blue or the dark color. You could change these colors and it would work with another combination, but the process still works. So at this point, I'm going to set that down. And, well, actually, let's keep going. Let's do the blending now. So this middle piece, I'm going to clean up all of the blue on it. I don't want any blue on the blended focal point. And I need to put a coat of paint here because in order to blend, I don't want the first coat, which is rather thin, to show up. And I need all this to be wet. This is where the mister comes in. Later on, I'll post a link where I bought mine. And so now I need to determine where I'm going to put the highlight. So I'm using the golf color and hardware I actually forgot what the hardware looks like on this. Oh, it's a big giant medallion. It's rather stunning. Let me grab it. But this will polish up really nice, and it's going to set right there. So I need to make sure that my blending is not contained behind this. I need to come out a little bit. So I'm glad I brought that out. You don't have a lot of work time on here. Fortunately, with the mister, it'll keep your paint wet. So I'm just pushing or dragging that color here. A couple things I can do right now. I could keep blending with the same brush and do a decent job. You may have to mist again. If it's feeling like it's dry brushing, you need a little bit more water. It's not bad, it's just not doing enough. This is where a nice natural brush, you don't want it too wet. If you get it wet, it's not going to work. But this is where now I can kind of work that blending in. And just a little bit of back and forth. I'll wipe off. Just light, very, very light touch. While you're dragging this, you are actually pulling paint off. So sometimes I'll wipe it off because the darker color I don't want to get back in the light. Just give it a little bit of, just a touch. If you get too much paint on it, you may have to go back over it, but the work time on this is limited. See, now I'm starting to put some of the light color on the dark. So let me get some of that paint off and go at it. I don't need to work too much in the middle because I have a medallion there. Just really trying to make sure the outside, I don't want a bunch of streaks. I think that'll do pretty well. Don't make it so perfect that it doesn't look like it goes with the piece overall. So, okay. We'll call that blended. Do you see that? The light's working very well. Now, I'm not done blending. I actually want to, if you'll notice the parts in here, I don't really want to leave blue. So I could just come back again with the patina and just leave it. But I actually think what I want to do is going with the whole glazed feeling. I'm going to put a decent amount of color down. I'm going to see if it'll work to do some blending in here. So just a little bit of paint. Wetting this down. This blender, this actually can do a spray, or you can hold it down. That's pretty cool. I'll try not to play with that too much, but it's very versatile, does a nice job. Okay, so back to the golf now. Just want a touch of paint. I'm just going to drag it right in the middle of all that. Lay it down in there. Now, back to my blending brush. If you're limited on brushes that you have, you may have to change your technique a little bit. I just found last night that those, when I started this, that those brushes, I had two different ones I used. Now in this, I actually want to go ahead and fan that paint a little bit over the blue. I just don't want to leave it. And right now I'm literally just not experimenting, but hoping that my idea, vision comes through. And if it doesn't, I'll grab another brush. You could even go back to your blue, and if you need to bring some back, just get it to where you think it's accomplishing what you want. So I want to keep some of that blue in there. Whatever I do, I want to also have that blending. If you feel like you've lost your blending because you've overworked it, just put a little bit more color down. brag on my mom more when I get her here. Okay, like I said before, I'm making it up as you go. So let's see if that communicates on the camera. Can't even see that. Can you see the highlighting there? So you want it to, I guess I would describe it as glowing. So let's turn this around. I got one more end to do. From where you're at, you can see just a nice, almost like light shining through the ocean. Thanks, Carol. All right, so now we're going to, just going to keep going. Got one more side to do, and then I need to go around the medallion too. I think that other side worked out pretty well. If by chance, for some reason, you're just not happy with it, let it dry. We know what our original color was. We can come back and we can put some more paint down, try a different technique or whatever. If you keep that in mind, I think it really takes a lot of the fear out of it, the uncertainty. You have a little bit more fun because there's not much that you can mess up. So all right, we're just going in there and blending right now. Looking for that glow. Wiping it off. And then I'm kind of fudging that edge just so that it's not too much blue. I can't really tell you how much paint to put in the space. You just have to try it. If it's too much, I really could just drag it out of there. But I think that worked well. Now I'm going to come back with the blue because that's what I did with the edges. And I'm just kind of softening where the teal and the blue met. I don't know what it is, but I really like the combination of the dry brush and the blending. You ever been to Disney World, Disneyland? What is it down in Florida? Disney World? Disneyland's in California. But I swear they have way too many Little Mermaid things there. Like every park has two of them, it seems like. I don't know what it is with Little Mermaid and what it is about that park. I guess they like the magical. So this reminds me a little bit of Little Mermaid. Should have a crab come out and start singing Under the Sea. Okay, remember as I mentioned at the beginning, this is kind of our centerpiece of the dresser. So it's taking the longest, needs the most attention. If you missed it, remember it's got the biggest, coolest centerpiece. That's gonna glow. Color theory wise, these are complement colors, red and green. So when I get this done, the light will just glow off of that. So, Central Arkansas. Patty, my son, got married in Arkansas last summer. It brings back memories of the long drive from my house to Arkansas. That's a haul. Have to go through Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee. Oh, that's a long drive. Okay, so more blending. I'm just applying color almost around it in a ring as a base for the highlight color. If I mess anything up too much, I'll just kind of let it dry and reverse the process. Okay, that's enough to, you missed it out. I want to be careful not to get too much here. Probably should have done this all. I don't want too much. The beauty of the mister is that I'm not getting too many dots here. Okay, just a little bit of highlight color. Jackie from Alabama. I'm over here in the Panhandle of Florida, so not too far away. Cleveland, wow. It felt like Cleveland here the last couple of days. Today we had so much rain yesterday. Today was beautiful. Love it when it rains and the humidity goes away. All right, so now I'm just kind of blending all that together. Softening it. Using the pixie brush. Back to my blue just so that I can soften the edge. And we're almost done with this. I don't know if any of y'all do lives, but I always wonder if I'm doing something silly with my face, like sticking my tongue out, or not that I go back and watch all my videos, so you can't even see me, so I was good. Okay. So here's progress. Let's go sideways. Let the lights catch that. One more step, and we will most likely be done. I'll look at it tomorrow just to make sure that I didn't miss a layer or something, but the last thing I want to do is hit it with the golf color to really highlight the edges. So this is kind of like time to make it shine. Notice the angle of the brush, just dragging it. How much? Oh, I don't know, I didn't put too much paint on my brush. And I don't need to reload it much. Start it easy, because if you put too much on there, I'm not hardly applying any pressure, and the angle allows me not to put too much weight on it. This technique can work a lot for all kinds of items, like small pieces. I guess we call them smalls in our booth. If you're doing things like salt and pepper shaker, just anything that's got a lot of detail, this really works. Now, I don't know if you noticed, and I actually kind of painted out the lines, but on the drawer fronts, I only use this color to highlight the edge, and then of course in the blending. I did not do the edges like I just did there, so I didn't mess up, but as I said, I went out of bounds, so let me just fix that. I don't want to do it all over the place, because then it really isn't special. Get my fingers in there. If I need to, I'll bring out this really stiff brush that's got blue on it. Just kind of erasing that over paint, and right there. If you're like me, sometimes I just let mistakes go. Nobody's judging, right? Now, some other things I had thought about maybe is highlighting some of the edges, but I can do that after, like maybe clean up the hardware and see how it looks. So just another peek at it. This is with the highlight on it. Just really pops, has way more depth than if I didn't do anything. So let's just wait to see what happens when the hardware's on there. I'm gonna really be excited to see that happen. Just a few more areas to touch. A little bit more dimension. If you only do the very tops, it may not look as thick. You guys are seeing me mess up live, which is great. Show you how to fix it. So I just kind of nicked down there, fine. And just kind of wipe it out. I think the lights definitely, the shine while it's wet too. When I top coat this piece later on. I would love to use more of a matte satin. It's just gonna make the colors really vivid, but just kind of soften up and give it a shine like it almost is wet. So for now, this cabinet front is done. Yeah, so I'll just keep going. I'm glad you're joining me tonight. First step, of course, I'm going to just go ahead and go around. In case you wonder, I'm using Flea Market's patina color, and I actually, and so this is 16 ounces. I was worried that I wouldn't have enough paint. Now I'm still not done painting everything, but I'm glad I got a big container to this nightstand and dresser. It would, you would not want to tackle with less than 16 ounces of paint for as many parts that you have to touch up. So I'm just painting the outer edges because I'm not doing any techniques on that. Just need a second coat. And that part is done. I could do all the same step, but I like to, it's too much moving around. The next step is bringing in the cobalt blue. And on this one, let me see if I can tip this up a little bit. I really just want to, what I almost describe as just jabbing it in there. So I just want to, that's one reason why I'm using this really old brush. You could probably use a Dixie Belle brush or anything that's got some stiffness. You've got to have enough bristles to get into the details. I'm not trying to perfectly coat this. I really just want to get a lot of paint in there. Let me see if I can show you here. Remember, the door's wet. It's okay if I can still see the green paint, the patina. If you wanted to, I noticed that if you want something that's complementary to this color as far as almost the same, Dixie Belle's mermaid tail is, at least by looking at it, it's almost the same. Not exactly, but if you don't have the farmhouse, sorry, flea market decor paint color, mermaid tail would be my next grab. So I'm just getting them in all the grooves again, like I'm pretty much like I'm trying to glaze it, and I'm embracing the dry brushing. So when I'm kind of finishing up a bit of the brush, I'm just kind of hitting all the edges because I'm going to come back again with the patina color and dry brush over this. The key is layers. You want layers, dry brushing. It needs to feel like it's been painted many times. So don't fight it. This is the fun part. This is the part that the teacher says, okay, kids, go after it. If you do that, get a little bit of energy and fun. Maybe blow up some balloons before you paint. That'll get you excited. Okay, so just a quick review. Notice I'm not trying to get all the areas filled up. Can't tell if that's coming through or not. It's kind of shiny in my camera, but just feel free to even turn it at different angles if you feel like you're missing a spot. I really don't want this to be fully covered. If I did, I would have really probably been better to start with blue, but I don't want that. All right, blue's done. I'm making a mess. Gloves probably would have been good, but that's okay. That's what rags are for. So while that's kind of setting up, and my next technique really doesn't care if it's wet or not. Now's the time that, as I mentioned on the first one, I'm just dragging over the piece, not trying to eliminate all the glue, but maybe knock it back a little bit. I don't want to go down, I just want to drag, go at different directions. You may have to go vertical a little bit, but if you do, just drag. Don't push down there. I want to keep that blue in the grooves.
What kind of paint do you use? Also, what do you do to prep?
Okay, so if you're asking about prep, of late, I've been using Dixie Belle's White Lightning to clean. That stuff does a really good job. If you don't know how well it does, you should try it and then look at your bucket of water when you're done. Just follow the instructions on the White Lightning container. It'll walk you through on how to do it, but the White Lightning does a really nice job. The other thing I did was these vintage dressers, remember they're plastic, so it's not like you can sand these down. I would just use a light sandpaper to get rid of anything that's flaky. Like right here, the hardware typically sticks. So I would kind of sand that down just lightly. I'm not trying to, there's no way you're sanding this whole piece. You can never get all that done. Outside of that, I don't use Boss on these. They're not going to bleed. It's plastic. And, but that's pretty much straightforward, 2 steps. And
You have to sand the top first.
I did have to sand the top of the nightstand and the dresser because it had a lot of flaky stuff on it, and I really didn't. I knew buying it that it had, but nothing the Orbiter sander or finishing sander couldn't take care of. All right, so let me turn this sideways. I just finished painting all of this one color because this is where I'm going to blend. I have the golf paint on here, and I want it to glow. I want the hardware to kind of just glow off of here. And we're using this brush. I'm just doing a little bit of blending. I'm not expecting that to be my finished. I'm going to go now to this is a Paint Pixie brush. I would imagine anything with one of the things about this brush and anything like this is that it has soft, it's not a flat, so it has a soft edge, which means that you can blend without having a lot of hard edges as a result. And this is a natural fiber, so it's not as, doesn't have as much tooth to it. Just be careful right now, it's wanting to pull all my paint off. You want the brush to be slightly damp, you don't want it to be wet, or you will not be blending too well.
So the same person who asked you how you prep asked what kind of paint do you use? That's her name is Jamie.
So the number one paint I use is Dixie Belle. I've used all kinds of paints in the last couple years or so, but I have not been able to do this with other brands. Now, I'm not going to say all brands, but most of the cheaper brands you get at your craft stores, I have not been able to do a good job blending. The coat goes on easier. Probably the number one thing you'll like with Dixie Belle is it's so smooth, meaning it paints flat, and it's just a better quality paint in my opinion. And when you're trying to paint something cool and do a nice job, you don't really need to be worrying about other things like, you know, brush. This is hand painted. I'm not really worried about brush strokes, but it's so much better for that.
Denise wants to know what the light color was that you used for blending.
Okay, so I just put the Golf on there, and it's a really beautiful light teal, and honestly it's better than just putting white down, but it's so nice. And it's Dixie Belle. So just in case you wondered, the flea market decor paint and Dixie Belle play really nice together, evidenced by what I'm doing. All right, so this is the last step. As you know, as you could probably see, I've already dry brushed the patina paint. So now I'm coming in and dragging. The thing to keep in mind is that you can't really push this down because I'd just be taking other paint off. So I just get enough paint on there where it's wet and just, I think I used the word kiss the top of this, but glaze it, just highlight it.
You should ask if anybody has any questions.
So that's one side. If you'd like, let's take a look at. So that's the finished result, and that's without that. It just doesn't have as much pop, so putting that little extra bit of.
Jackie says you make it look so easy.
It is easy, Jackie. You got this. You know, one of the things about this piece, this dresser set, and anytime I buy furniture, is you almost ask yourself, you need to start composing the art or the scene. When you see it, you're like, what can I do with that? Now, trust me, I literally had this thing prepped and in my painting area without any idea of what I was going to do with it. So I do look around. I'm always looking at other people's work just for ideas of, oh, I didn't think about that. And then you do your own rendition of that. And that's kind of where I'm at. So, and other times it's just an experiment. I mean, what if the blue didn't work? What if it looked too heavy? And it might to some, but when you get it and you go, wow, it's going to work. You just sink your teeth in and start going at it. So that's the, just put that here in my little gallery, I guess. So do you want to see one more drawer? Or do you just want to, or do you want to see more blending? Let's see what we get. Rebecca joined us. Hey, Rebecca. I'll do either one depending on what you guys want to see more of. It's the blending or more highlighting and dry brushing. So I'll take a moment, let you guys, let the Jeopardy music play while you guys decide. I'm going to go either direction, so. All right. Too slow. Let's finish this last drawer up. So you guys.
Jackie says blending.
Blending? Oh, sure, now you're answering.
Another person's Crystal says blending.
Okay, well let me put this last coat around this edge and I'll switch to blending. The dresser has 3 drawers behind this cabinet you saw me paint. And if anybody, y'all have done any kind of vintage dressers, that's kind of a vintage look, I guess.
Sandy wants to know what are your handles?
Oh, I wish I had the official word for it, but I believe they're drop. I can show you. I don't usually paint my hardware. If you buy a nice piece, you're gonna get nice hardware. I love to polish mine. So that's pretty much the hardware right there. And those will glow, look amazing up against this color, so it'll be a really nice look. Okay, I'm gonna set to the side. No harm done there.
Dana says, what about the side? I don't know, but
Which side are you thinking? The side of the dresser? Like, am I painting the side?
Lorraine says swing handles. Maybe that's what
Yeah, I guess that would be, you know, they're hanging down. I don't think they're pulls, but they have a really cool decoration on them. I'll be sure to take some pictures of them. Okay, so these are the drawers that are on the middle behind the cabinet. Nothing special. This is pretty common for a lot of vintage dressers, just flat. I'm not going to do it on this, at least not right now, but these are great canvases for maybe stenciling or textures, or decoupage is probably the wrong word, but if you want to put paper on here, it really is up to you. But this is a great canvas because it's nice and flat. There's no way I'm doing it. I guess I could have done it on this part, but this is a nice piece. For now, I think just to get it done, because to me, I could keep going with it, but I actually think that the drawers are so cool that it almost is nice to have a relief of just something simple and clean. You know.
Dana says, show us painting the side of the dresser. So maybe I'll have to do that.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I will probably do that, but I'll do it on the side of the nightstand since I've already got it somewhat in the camera view. It's the same idea, and honestly, I really haven't. And by the way, if you need some more, if your paint's dragging and it's just not very smooth, sometimes a little bit of spray, look how just nice and smooth now. So just a little bit of spritz of water. One will make your brush strokes less noticeable and really make the paint slide on better. Now maybe you might need another light coat, but I would rather have 3 coats and smooth paint than 2 coats and clunky brush strokes. Now, if we're blending, and we are, you need to keep moving here. So I put the paint down, second coat of color. Now I'm going to get some of the Gulf.
Do you want to hold the camera up?
How much is up to you. Now you need to determine where you're going to blend. I'm going to blend in the middle and fade out. So I just want to apply maybe 2. This is one of those things you kind of just, if you're going to do this, you need to do all 3, which I'm not because I'll do the sides. So that's about all I want to do. Now I'm going to take my blending brush, and you have to decide, am I going all the way across? Am I going to blend this side, clean my brush, and blend that side? It doesn't really matter. It just depends on how big your piece is. For now, I'm going to do a little bit of both. You see how I've like elongated that out? You could go also up and down. It just depends. I'm wiping some of the paint off. Now I'm going to just go from the middle and make it even longer strokes. Depending on how long your gradient's going to be. But to me, the idea here is that you want to blend it. Now, I'm going to avoid coming back in here again. I'm going to wipe off my brush because it's got light paint. I'm going to go ahead and take the dark paint over a little bit. All right. Bristle in there. And just take a look at it. If you feel like it's too streaky, notice how I'm lifting. I don't want to drag straight. I want to kind of fade it out. And that's the beauty of the round brush. It allows me to do that. If it was flat, I'd be left with a flat edge. So that's blended. One of the things you have to keep in mind now, for the next piece, I need to kind of keep in mind how far my blending went. I don't want to really narrow strip. So this is where laying it down and doing the next piece so that I don't have this wavy highlight going. But that's really it. I could do another color on the outside, but if you're going to do multiple colors, you need to kind of plan that in advance. And that's really all I want to do. If you watched Kristana or Brandy blend, they'll talk about going up and down too, and that's fine. I just didn't need to do that on this one. Okay. So let me move this around. And we'll pretend, let's see who said that. Dana, we'll pretend we're working on the side of the dresser. It's going to be the same principle. And I'm just going to move this over. And use all the same colors. Okay, so here's the side of the nightstand. Some things that I have to remember on the dresser, I actually use blue to fill in the gaps. So I think what I want to do is make sure that I incorporate blue. I want to continue that almost glazing feel so that the more that you use this effect, the more cohesive your piece is going to be. So let me give this thing a little bit of just encourage a little bit. Okay, so just a little bit of paint. I'm using the cobalt blue still, and I don't want to get up into where I'm painting so much. I just really want to kind of get the cracks. Treating this almost like dry brush. So a lot of dragging. Once I get the paint down, I'm just dragging. I probably put too much water on it, but that's okay. My next technique is really going to pixel all that. I'm even going to go ahead and take this underneath. I think that'll help kind of hide. I'm no furniture expert, but I think the reason why a lot of dressers did this, maybe somebody older than I could tell me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of times they did this is because back when I was young, like in the 70s, they had like shag carpet. And you can imagine that shag carpet consumed a dresser. Well, if you got an inch shag carpet, you still have a nice looking dresser. So someone smarter and older than I might be able to tell me about that. But that's my conclusion why they did that. Nowadays, everybody wants this off the ground. They want legs, and I just don't think that that really works. I mean, you could try it. I know some people are successful with it, but I don't get it. So I'm just doing this to continue the tie-in. You won't see a lot of this, but I just have a feeling I'm going to need that. All right, now is really where I wanted the mister. I think you use less paint when your canvas is a little wet. Okay, so right now I'm actually not going all the way into the blue. And the reason why is because I don't want to blend the blue into my blending. I'm going to come back and see if my blender or another brush, I want this to be dry brush, but this paint's too wet to do that. So we'll see if that's going to work. I really do, I'm glad you guys came to watch. I tried to avoid a few other lives that were going on tonight, but I posted yesterday that I was going to go live. I wanted to show this technique tonight. Okay, so here you can see I've got, and I'm going different directions. If you needed to, you can always come back and smooth that out. All right, this is where I want to, so all that's done. I didn't want any of this blue in my blending. So this is kind of where I wanted to almost dry brush, like we did on the drawer. If the blue looks too wet, you might need to let it dry just a little bit more. I can't spend too much time on this because my paint above is drying. So right now I'm just kind of blending the techniques.
Susie loves the colors. We should talk about the colors with you.
There's something nice about this. Would be what we would call very much an analogous palette. They're all on the same side of the color wheel. They all have blue in it. That really helps tie a piece together. And I'm going to take advantage of color harmony and let the hardware be the complement color. That's really going to look good. All right, so at this point, I have this kind of slowly faded in. Now we're ready for blending. My paint's already drying on me, so this is where we want to mist all that down. If you feel like you need to, you can come back with the brush, put a little bit more paint, but don't get too much on there. You don't want it to get too thick. Now we're ready for our light color. I just want a band. If you've seen other of my pieces, hopefully following me on Instagram or Facebook, I've done some where there's more, 3 colors, 2 colors. This one is more, it is blending, but it's almost more just a highlight rather than a transition between 2 colors. So I'm doing a little blending technically right now. This is a flat. This is Klingon's F30, it's a flat. Now I'm getting the Paint Pixie. I don't have a lot of brushes, so I'm just going with what I got. Now, if you feel like you need to, keep it wet. This is where I probably would do side to side. On the drawer front, it really didn't make sense. It's already getting thick on me. Because I already blended vertically, side to side, really just worked out great. And I'm just slowly taking this up. I don't want any of this highlight. Working on any inconsistencies or issues I see. There's one area right there I want the highlight color in. This is just patina right there. So we're going from blended almost to a dry brush technique, which I think is the magic of this technique I did today. Does that look all right, guys? There's one spot right here that I might need to encourage a little bit of paint over there. I want to soften that up. It's already drying on me, so if I do any more work on it, I either need to re-wet it or almost repaint it. Since this was so wet a while ago, I could get a hairdryer out. I just want to put a little bit more green down. And I'll repeat that technique on both sides of this and of the dresser. The tops, I like to do the blending towards the middle. I want the focal point of the piece to be towards the middle. So on a dresser or a nightstand, if this was the top, I want the top to be highlighted and then fade out. So your eye just goes to the middle. Kind of like a work of art, have a nice focal point. So, well, I had a good bit of viewers. If you're watching later, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know. Hopefully I've given you a lot of techniques to go back and try on your pieces. Blending, dry brushing, maybe glazing, experiment. Some great things to try experimenting on are smaller pieces like cabinet doors, old mirrors, boards, but try to get something with detail if you want to do the dry brushing. One thing I might still try with Dixie Belle's gilding waxes. I haven't used the warm gold yet, but that one would be really nice. I do like the bronze. I'm gonna wait to see how the hardware polishes up, but I think the hardware is gonna polish more towards the gold, but if I wanted to, I might come back with a little bit of extra gilding wax and even do some touches of gilding wax. But I'm gonna do that after I polish the hardware to see if it's leaning towards gold or has a little bit of a red tone. But I think a little bit of gold will kind of like bring out maybe some highlights, like almost like sun sparkling on the bottom ocean floor, if I could describe it that way. But that's gonna be really cool. So stay tuned for that. Maybe I'll come on live as I'm finishing up when I get to that point. But that's it for tonight. Thanks for joining me, and excited to see what you come up with. If you follow me on Facebook, Bowtie Tuesday Treasures, maybe send me a picture of a project you're working on. Let me see what you're up to. If you have any questions, holla at me. But until next time, thanks for joining me and have a super night.
That's the end of the show. Make sure you subscribe and ring the bell before you go. Bye.